Hey y'all, it's Jen, and today I am here with my review for You're Welcome, Universe by Whitney Gardner. So a summary of this book is it is about a girl who is deaf who expresses herself through art and deals with her stresses through art, and her particular brand of art is street art or graffiti. Julia goes to a school for the deaf initially, and in the first couple of pages she gets kicked out and sent to a mainstream school where she has an interpreter and has to deal with all of that. In this, Julia really has to come to terms with and she struggles through dealing with female friendships. She is betrayed right off the bat by the girl who she thinks is her best friend that attends the school for the deaf with her, and also they work together. And then she has to navigate a friendship with someone that is not deaf, or as she calls it, a hearie. And there's a lot of struggles that go along with just navigating the world of female friendships, and then throwing in that additional struggle of also being deaf. This book is probably equally plot driven and character driven. Obviously it is about the characters more than anything, but there is a little bit of a plot. There is a little bit of a mystery that goes on. Julia starts tagging around by her school, and someone is competing with her. There's a little bit of a competition and a mystery of who this is. Julia is the main character. I didn't like her at all. She is bitter. She is not forgiving in any way. She has these standards for people that are really kind of high and a little ridiculous in my opinion. My favorite character of the book was probably the friend that she makes at the mainstream school, and I don't remember her name at all because Julia always calls her Yoga Pants or YP, and that's how she's referred to in the majority of the book. I know it probably told her name, but again, like I said, the majority of the book she is referred to as YP or Yoga Pants, so that is how I remember her. And I think she is probably my favorite character of the book. She was the one that seemed the most genuine and the most likable. Are there diverse characters in here? Absolutely. Obviously Julia is deaf. Julia's first best friend is also deaf, but she has the cochlear implants. Julia has two mothers, and one of them is Indian, and Julia is half Indian. I believe it was Indian. So there's definitely diverse characters in here. The writing style of this book was okay. The narration of it really gave a bad taste in my mouth. I didn't care for it. It was always a little bit angry and a little bit bitter, and I don't know if that trait of the narrator voice is what made me feel like Julia was a little bit bitter and a little bit negative. So I didn't really care for that. The whole book, the pacing of it, in parts it's kind of slow and a little redundant in some places. There wasn't a lot of dead parts, and there wasn't anything that was really hard to get through. I just didn't care for the narration. And I had about 100 pages left to go, and I just dreaded picking it up because of that bitter tone to the whole thing. The other thing that really bothered me about this was those last 75 pages. The whole book, it's just under 300 pages, and all the way up to the last 75 pages, it has that negative, bitter voice to it. And then the last 75 pages, it's like a complete 180. And it didn't seem authentic, and it didn't seem genuine to me. it seemed rushed and like she had to end this on a happy note, and that maybe she didn't have enough time to wrap it up properly. I don't have a quote from this book because nothing really stood out to me. So I rated this book 3.5 stars, and that last half star was really just before the diversity in it. I believe this is a first book from this author. I would read another book by her. It wasn't so bad that I wouldn't give Whitney Gardner another chance. Definitely, if you are interested in reading a book that is diverse with characters that are deaf, that have 2 moms, that are of a mixed race, this is definitely going to fit those qualifications. I also had a little bit of trouble with the believability and the authentic sound of the deaf community. I do not have anybody in my family who is deaf. I don't have any friends that are deaf. I want to qualify that. However, both of my children are in college and pursuing degrees that are heavily influenced and heavily relate to the deaf community and are heavily involved. My youngest daughter is actually going for sign language interpretation degree. So she talks a lot about the deaf culture and the deaf community. And my oldest daughter has taken several courses at our local school for the deaf. My oldest daughter is currently in school for her bachelor's in speech pathology, and then she will pursue her master's/doctorate in occupational therapy. She is also considering going back for a sign language interpretation degree as well. And she is very involved in the local deaf community here as well. So the discussions that we've had surrounding the deaf community from them, this one just didn't feel authentic to me based on what I know and what I've experienced and what my children have experienced. Definitely give this one a chance, even though I wasn't particularly head over heels for this. It wasn't a bad book. It did show some of the struggles that people have in the deaf community. It did show how people that can hear treat people in the community differently, and kind of stereotypes that they suffer. So there were things that were good about this, and then my real problem with it was the tone. It just sounded bitter the whole way through, and Julia was a little bit of a brat, and she did some things that I thought she could have just risen above instead of taking things to the way she did, because she was angry. That's it for my review of Your Welcome Universe by Whitney Gardner. If you have read this, leave your comments below. I'd love to have a discussion about your thoughts on this, and if you caught the same tone that I did with the narration and with the main character, Julia. If you plan on reading this, please let me know that as well. I would love to hear your thoughts on it after you've read it. As always, be sure to give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video and this review. If you would like to be notified of more content from me, please hit the subscribe button. And until next time, bye.